Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a poor miller who had 3 sons. When the miller passed away, he left only a mill, a donkey, and a cat to his sons. The eldest son took the mill, the second took the donkey, and the youngest, well, he was left with just the cat. The youngest son was disheartened.
What am I to do with a meerkat?
But this was no ordinary cat. As soon as the miller's son spoke, the cat, who was as sharp as a needle and as clever as a fox, stood on his hind legs and spoke in a voice smooth and calm.
Do not worry, master. Just give me a pair of boots and a bag, and you'll see that your fortune will change.
The young man, though surprised, trusted the cat and gave him what he asked for. Puss pulled on his boots, slung the bag over his shoulder, and set off into the fields. Puss in Boots knew exactly what he was doing. He filled his bag with fresh vegetables and lay it open on the ground, then hid in the tall grass nearby. Before long, a fat rabbit hopped by, lured by the smell of the vegetables. As soon as the rabbit poked its head into the bag, Puss pulled the drawstring tight and caught the rabbit. Proud of his catch, Puss didn't head home. Instead, he went straight to the royal palace. Bowing low before the king, he said,
Your Majesty, I bring you a gift from my master, the Marquis of Carabas.
Of course, the young man was no marquis, but the king didn't know that. The king, delighted with the gift, accepted it graciously.
Thank your master for his kindness.
Puss continued this ruse for several days, bringing the king gifts of partridges, rabbits, and other game, all in the name of the Marquis of Carabas. The king grew quite fond of this mysterious nobleman, whom he had never met. One day, Puss learned that the king was planning to take a carriage ride along the river with his beautiful daughter, the princess. The clever cat rushed home to his master.
Master, if you follow my instructions, your fortune will be made. Go and bathe in the river at exactly noon, and leave the rest to me.
At noon, as the young man bathed in the river, the king's carriage approached. Puss began to shout at the top of his lungs.
Help! Help! The Marquis of Carabas is drowning!
The king heard the cries and immediately ordered his servants to rescue the young man. They pulled him from the river, but his clothes had vanished. Puss had hidden them behind a rock.
Your Majesty, thieves have stolen my master's clothes. He has nothing to wear. The king, eager to help the man he believed to be the noble Marquis of Carabas, ordered his servants to bring fine garments for the young man. Dressed in splendid clothes, the miller's son looked every bit the nobleman.
The king invited the young man to join him in his carriage. As they traveled together, the princess, who was as kind as she was beautiful, took a liking to the handsome Marquis. Meanwhile, Puss in Boots raced ahead to a large estate owned by a wealthy and wicked ogre. The ogre was feared by all, for he had the power to transform himself into any creature he pleased. Puss approached the ogre's castle and politely asked for an audience.
I have heard that you can transform yourself into any creature, no matter how fearsome. Is it true?
The ogre, proud of his abilities, growled.
Of course. Watch this.
And in an instant, he turned into a ferocious lion, roaring loudly. Puss pretended to be impressed, but then he asked,
Can you also transform into something small, like a mouse?
The ogre, eager to show off, laughed and in a flash, turned into a tiny mouse, scurrying across the floor. In that moment, Puss pounced and devoured the mouse in one swift bite. The ogre was no more. Puss quickly ran out to greet the king's carriage as it approached the ogre's castle.
Welcome to the castle of the Marquis of Carabas.
The king, impressed by the vast estate, believed it belonged to the young man. He was so pleased with the Marquis of Carabas that he offered his daughter's hand in marriage. The princess, who had grown fond of the young man during their journey, happily agreed. And so the miller's son, with the help of his clever cat, married the princess and lived happily ever after in the grand castle. Puss in Boots became a lord, and from that day on, he never had to chase another mouse again, unless he wanted to.